Hi, this is Did You Eat? I'm Jane, and we're going to make Easter bread that I learned from my grandma. And it was very hard to do recipes from grandma because everything was a handful of this, a tablespoon of that. And when I did a tablespoon of the Crisco for this recipe, the tablespoon came out to over a half a cup. So you have to make sure you measure everything. So you want to take a nice big russet potato, peel that down, and you're going to boil this. And once it's nice and soft, you have to mash it up. But you have to save a cup of the potato water to put your yeast in. So we're going to get this all nice and peeled. And as you see, I like to have a garbage bowl. I don't always make it in the bowl. But, so this is what we do with the potato. And then I'm going to get this all peeled and cut up and put it in the water, and then we'll get back to you and show you what we do. So now the potato's all peeled. I started to cut it up. I like to make the size small, so when you're cooking them, they'll cook much faster. The larger the pieces, the longer it takes to cook. So we'll get these in the water, and we'll have them get nice and soft, and then we'll come back and we'll start our yeast and mash our potatoes and measure out everything and get going. So see you in a bit. Okay, the potatoes took about 15 minutes to get nice and soft. We put them in the mixer, in the bowl. It's going to go in the huge mixer here, the KitchenAid. But you save 1 cup of potato water. It should only be between 100 and 110 degrees. You put your yeast in it and stir it and set it aside for about 5 minutes until it starts bubbling. And this is a good way to check to make sure your yeast is active.
How much yeast did you use?
Yeah.
How much yeast did you use?
Oh, I have to listen to the audience that's back there helping me with my camera work. So we have 1 cup of potato water, as I said, at between 100 and 110 degrees. And we had 2 packages of Fleischmann's yeast, or 4.5 teaspoons of Fleischmann's yeast, which is the same as 2 packages. So we're going to put that aside. We're going to let that bubble. In the meantime, we're going to take our potatoes and put it here in the mixer. Now, if you have a ricer, you can rice your potatoes, but I find that they're soft enough and you put everything in a mixer, it'll mix them up nice and creamy. You're going to put a half a cup of Crisco into this. Just drop some Crisco. Okay. As it goes flying across the table. And we have a cup and a half, I believe. Yep, cup and a half of sugar. And you pour that in there too. And you let this get nice and creamy. In the meantime, hopefully our yeast will start bubbling. Now to this, you're going to add your eggs and your salt. And your eggs you're going to do 1 at a time. And what I like to do with the eggs is I like to crack them into a separate bowl. So if you get any if you get any shells in here. I have grandchildren on the side and they're making all kinds of hand jives. So I'm going to just get 1 egg ready here. So after we do that, sorry, I had to read this because I wasn't sure about when I add my yeast. So here we have 3/4 of a cup of anisette, 1/4 of a cup of anise seeds, and a teaspoon of salt. So this is getting nice and creamy. Oh, let's see how our yeast is doing. It's starting to bubble up. So as soon as that's ready, we're going to throw the yeast in, and we'll throw the rest of these ingredients in. So we're going to throw a half a teaspoon of salt in here, and we're going to add our eggs one at a time. Put this up just a little bit more. So we have 7 eggs to add in. Now, if you ever crack your eggs and you do get a shell into your eggs, the easiest way to get it out is to use the shell and just scoop it, and it'll come right out. And that's why we do them one at a time, because there's nothing worse than getting eggshell under your teeth. So they're mixing in there very nicely, getting nice and creamy. And if I have an overshot, you can see that. Okay, 2 more eggs and we'll have that done. And my grandson's trying to be very helpful and show you a shot of how it's mixing. Okay, so we have all our eggs in here. We're going to add our anise flavoring. Or it's our anisette liqueur. Now you can omit the seeds and maybe put a little anise extract in, but we've always made it with the seeds and it gives it a richer flavor. You just throw that in there, and now the yeast is starting to get nice and bubbly. And I did put a thermometer into the water to temper it to make sure it was between 100 and 110. This was about 108 degrees. That's bubbling nicely. So we're going to put that into here. Make sure we get it all. Now it calls for 8 cups of flour. We're going to make sure our counter is nice and clean because we're going to throw it out on the counter. Move all our stuff out of the way. It doesn't always take a full 8 cups, and it might take more. It all depends on how large your eggs are. I like to use extra large eggs. So you start adding your flour 1 cup at a time. Doesn't have to be totally exact. So it's going to mix in here until it gets to a certain thickness. Then I'll put the dough hook in to make it a little bit easier. And after that, we'll throw it out and we'll mix it on the table. Now this dough has to rise 3 times. I think that was 3 cups. I'm bad. I know the consistency, so we'll try. That looks like 4. So it's getting that's fine. And I have my dough up here. So we're going to stop this at this point and bring it down. I'm going to rinse my hands off a little so they're nice and clean. Because I use my fingers to clean it off. So you always have to make sure your hands are clean. And of course, it's only my family eating this bread. So, you know, if I poison them, oh well. I'm sure the oven will take out all the juice. So we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to put our dough hook on. Okay. So now we can put a little more of the flour in. This is my wet cloth. It's always good to have a wet, what we call in Italian, a moppini around, so you can clean up stuff. Okay. We're going to just try 1 more cup of flour in here with the dough, and then we're going to get ready to mix it on the table. Now, I used to take out my breadboard all the time, and I learned from my daughter-in-law that the marble countertops, granite countertops, work out wonderful to knead your dough. Okay. Let's get ready. You're just going to throw this onto your table. So you see how it's getting nice and sticky. Okay. I love this little rubber bowl scraper. It really does a nice job getting all the dough out of here. So you can see it's still very wet. A little flour on your hands so they're not too sticky before you really get going. There you go. And as I said, it all depends. At this point, I'm not measuring how much flour I'm putting in. Now it comes all to the texture. It's still a little moist. You keep turning your dough and kneading it. It's with the palms of your hands. So I can still feel how sticky it is. I'm going to need some more flour. So, as we said in the beginning, we're married 54 years this year, and I have made the bread every single year for the family. My mom used to make it before. She used to do little bunnies for all the grandchildren. And I just might make one bunny to show you how she formed it and how she did it. So I can feel now this is getting dried. Well, it's still, I don't want to say it's dry. It's still moist, but I can feel the difference in the dough from when I first threw it in here. So once you get it nice, and you can tell, if you pinch your dough and it goes back down, usually that tells you that it's ready. It's got that nice elasticity to it. Okay, now I forgot to. Okay, that feels just about right. You pinch it, it goes right back down. So now, if you'll excuse me for 1 minute, I have to go get my bowl to put it in. Rinse my hands off. So I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so now we're back. We're going to take a little oil. I like to use corn oil. You can use olive oil. It doesn't really matter. You're going to put a little oil on the bottom of your bowl. A little oil. You're going to put your dough in. Twirl it around, flip it over, pat it down. Now we're going to cover this, and then we're going to get it. I like to get a blanket. So I'm going to cover this with saran wrap. And as you see, we buy the biggest saran wrap you could think of. Cover it up nice and tight. And this has to rise for an hour. And we'll be back after an hour, but first let me show you. Blue blanket for me, please. So then I open a blanket on the counter here. And you want to keep the dough nice and warm so it'll rise. So open it. This blanket is very heavy, although it doesn't look it. So you're going to put this inside, cover it up, and leave it for an hour. So it needs an hour to rise, and it takes 3 rising times. You can let it rise for an hour, punch it down, let it rise for another hour, then we'll make our loaves. And those will rise, and then we'll cook them. So thank you for listening right now, and we'll be back with you in a little while. Okay, it's been 1 hour since the bread has been resting under this nice blanket. And as you can see, it's almost to the top of the bowl. So what we're just gonna lift off the saran. And then we're gonna just pull it back a little. Because we can put it right back on here. And I'm gonna literally punch this down. You want to get all the air out of it. And of course, it's not going to get as small as it was the first time. So now the second time, it should rise all the way to the top of this bowl. Okay, so that's good like that. I'm going to cover it back up again. And we're going to leave it for another hour. And in an hour, we'll come back. And what we'll do then is we will make the loaves. And then we'll let them sit for an hour to rise. We will use an egg wash of just the egg yolk and a little bit of water and brush over the tops and cook it in a 325 oven for about 45 minutes to an hour till it's really pretty and golden. So I usually I make 4 loaves. I do them half the time and then I switch the loaf pans so they can each get the even heat in the oven. So thank you, and see you again in another hour. Okay, so we had the second time we let the dough rise, and as you can see, it's right up to the top here. Just the way we like it. Okay, so time to take off the plastic. We're gonna move our towel out of the way, our blanket. Get some nice flour in here. So this would be the punching down the second time. And now we're going to form our loaves. Now you can just form a regular loaf, but I've always liked it braided because it just looks so much prettier. So we're going to get all those nice air bubbles out. See if I can get one. I can hear them squeaking out of the dough. I'm going to cut this into 4 parts. Oops, wrong one. We need the middle one. Plastic doesn't work too well. So that's 2 there. So like I said, you could leave them into little balls if you'd like, or make them oblong. I'd rather do them into braids. And this is how we do that. So here you can see the air bubble. So I'm going to cut this, and then we're going to make 3 pieces on either side. You try to make them even, the best you can. There we go. So we're going to roll them into 6 long strips, and then we're going to braid them. And that's where the tricky part comes in. Braiding with 6. That's that little piece I added. So you have 1. 2. More dough on that. So it's still a little sticky. Still a lot of nice moisture in it. So the sides where you cut, you're going to have to flour them just a little. This one to the end. gel than the rest. Let's add it to this one. Okay, now to try and remember the 6 braids, let's see what we can do. You put one over to the right, one to the left, and then you bring this one down, and then this one over, and then this one to the middle. Then the next one over, and this one to the middle. This one over, to the middle, over, to the middle, over, to the middle, and so on. Middle, 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 over, middle. Tuck that under, tuck this under, and you have a nice braid. And take these cookie sheets and put them on here. So we're going to put 2 on a sheet. Make sure, Michael. So we're going to have to do this 4 times.
And we'll be back when she's done with that.
Anyway. I'm going to attempt to make the little bunnies that my mom used to make, that my son reminded me. So she would squeeze the dough in a little here. She'd snip it and make the bunny's little ears. And then she would snip it here and snip it here. Then she'd take those and she would put an egg in the middle. Now, I don't have a small enough egg since I made this tiny. And she would take the little arms and she would cross them over the egg in the middle. And she would take, let's see. Remember, I've never done the bunnies. This was always the grandma, Bobby, they called her. And she would make these for the kids. So we're going to cut 2 little eyes that are raisins. And she put one eye here. And she put one eye here. And then she take another little raisin and do, let's see if I can do that little bunny nose. Is that how the little nose would look? Well, you know what? I can't make the nose the way Grandma did. So we're just going to give him a little button nose. So we're going to try and see if we could get that to raise. And his little, I guess that would be his bunny tail. We'll see what happens. We tried just to satisfy my oldest son. We'll take him and put him on a little pan next to the other ones. Okay. Okay, so once we had cut the big piece of dough into 4 sections, we cut each of them in half, and each of them gets cut into 3 strips. So we make 3 equal parts, or just about equal. And don't worry if there's one's a little bigger than the other. You could always take from Peter to take Paul, like I used to say. So we're going to make 6 strips. And I wanted to try and see if I can make it a little easier to show you how I shape them. As I said before, you can just leave them into little round breads if you like. I just think this is a prettier presentation when you're serving at Easter. So we have 3. 4. This one seems to be a little less, so we're going to steal from him. 5. And this will be the 6th one. So now we're going to try and see if I can do this braiding so you can see what I'm doing. So now you try and pinch all 6 of them together at the top. So it looks like a little, almost an octopus. So you put the one from the right all the way over. It's one from the left and bring that one all the way over. Now you're going to bring the top one down to the middle. No, all the way over. Right. Yeah, the top one down to the middle, sorry. And you're going to take the second one here and bring that over, and the one on top to the middle. The second one over, and this side down to the middle. And you continue doing that. Sorry, my table's a little sticky, so I'm going to try and move it up a little. Okay. So this is going to go over to the middle. And the outside one, and this goes to the middle. The second one in, and this to the middle. This one goes over, this one to the middle, and as you see, it gets tighter at the bottom. And once you get to where it's almost impossible, you just tuck it all underneath. Whoops, my finger got stuck. And so now you have a nice braid. You're gonna put it on your cookie sheet. This one's already starting to rise a little. We're gonna grab another piece of plastic. And the reason you put the plastic over the top is because you don't want the towel to stick to it. The plastic is a little easier to get off. So as that rises, we're just going to cover it now with a light dish towel. And then we're going to let it sit for another hour before we bake it. And then I'll show you how to brush the top, and we'll put it in the oven. Let it cook for 45 minutes to an hour, and then you'll see how nice and beautiful and golden they will be.
And the buddy now has mental issues.
Just like the rest of this family.
So the last step before you put them in the oven is to brush them lightly with egg wash. Sort of spilt a little. And that's egg yolk with a little bit of water in it. And this gives it a nice shiny texture, shiny look when they come out. And then we're going to put them in the oven. We have the oven heating up to 325 degrees. I'm going to put them all in at once, but I'm going to switch them halfway through. So I'll time them for 22 minutes, and then switch them, do 22 more, and then I'll see if they need to be browned a little more. So in
Hey,
the
Graham.
oven, they're going to go.
By switching, do you mean switching them out of the oven, or do you mean by switching the shelves?
You have to put the bottoms on the top shelf and this top shelf on the bottom shelf. It's my grandson. He doesn't understand switching. So, okay, they're going in the oven, and we'll show them to you when they're all finished. So, I've just taken the loaves out of the oven. They look pretty well done. Poor little bunny came out like a little fat boy. Grandma's was much better. And so what I like to do now is just take them off of the pan. I slide a knife underneath. Give them a little tap. They sound nice and hollow. And we'll put them on the nice grate so they can cool down. And there you have it. Beautiful 4 loaves of Easter bread. Whew. They're really hot right now. Let's see if I can. Oh, they sound very good. And there you have it. They've come nice and golden. The egg gave them a little bit of a shine. Even Bunny has a little bit of a shine. He's just a little chubby. So thank you for listening and watching. I hope you will make Easter bread one day. And it's really delicious. It's great toasted, and it's really good using for French toast. Thank you. Bye. Hi, this is Jane from Did You Eat? So as you can see, one of the breads is already cut into. Grandchildren are here for Easter Sunday. It's nice and quiet now because I sent them all to the pool. So after we cut the bread, it's nice to place it on its side so the bread will stay, that slice will still stay nice and fresh and won't get dried out. So then when we're ready to cut for Easter, it's delicious. We always toast it in the morning. I have to cut a little piece off because they're too long.
No, cut them in
But
half.
let me show you first. I don't know if you can see the little seeds that are
Hold
in
on.
it. These are the nice anise seeds that we put in all through the bread. So we're going to cut them in half and toast them. And then when they're nice and toasty, we'll show you what they look like. We take them out and butter them. And I have a feeling that my husband will be here to taste it, to let you know how it is. So as soon as they pop, we'll let you see what they look like. The toast has come up. It's nice and golden on both sides. We're going to put some nice butter, and this Irish butter is delicious. It's called Kerrygold. It's been out because the kids have been here, so we made it get nice and soft. So a friend of mine made these. They're called toaster tweezers, and they're great so you don't burn your fingers when you're trying to get the toast out of your toaster. Oops, let go. There you go. So there you have it. It's a wonderful, delicious, Easter bread. You can put a lot of butter, a little butter, however you like it. Bread is a little hot. I'm burning my thumb. But it is so tasty, so good. And as I said, my husband will definitely taste it and enjoy. It's delicious.
I don't know if you hear the crunch.
It's so sweet and so good. And we just love it. My mom, Anna Palma, my grandma, Anna Palma, is who I got the recipe from. And I have been making it every year since we're married. And that's for 54 years.
The aniseed and the actual anisette liqueur, it just gives it a great taste. It really does. Hope you enjoy it.
So thank you. Hope you'll try making this.
Want to
Delicious.
go later?